And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 283 of This Old Marketing, recorded on Thursday, August 5th, 2021. And with me, as always, my good friend, my colleague, and the guy who I'd definitely share my gold medal with if we tied, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
I would share with you. By the way, that was a great story.
I would share with you.
That was
I love that story so much.
The sharing.
It was so great.
The sharing of the medal.
Yeah.
We should all just get participation awards. No, this is totally different. Totally different thing.
Yeah, totally different thing. And my favorite part of that is that the Italian guy, of how excited he was and running around and, crawling around. I mean, it was the most Italian reaction ever. And it was fantastic. It's just
Have you been watching a lot of the Olympic Games?
Well, we'll get to that when we get
have
to
a
rants and raves. But
you'll have to wait to the end of the episode to really get into our feelings about this.
Stay tuned, folks, for that piece. But I have been trying, I'll put it that way, as a tease toward the rants and raves later. I have been attempting to watch as much as I can, but been finding it difficult to do so. Yeah.
The one thing, and I get how high, we're not going to give anything away here, but I understand how difficult it is to make a commercial and how much money goes into it. But when you see the same commercial that many times in a row, you would think, because they're basically, like, for example, Toyota has what, three or four different commercials that they've been running throughout the whole thing. Well, that's right. You've just seen one 10 times if you've been watching it. I've watched probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 nights of it, and I've seen the same commercial about 8 times. I'm like, good commercial, but geez, now you're starting to loathe the brand because they didn't give me enough differentiation of the messaging. It's killing me.
Yeah, it's such a wasted opportunity, right? Yeah. For telling a deeper, more meaningful story, because you have the time, right? You have the frequency by which you're going to get your message out there. Why are you not taking advantage of that? I get the whole thing about repetition and all of that, but to your point, there's a point where repetition becomes annoyance, and you're only killing yourself, right? At that point, right? It's like, and we can talk about the challenge with sponsorship, generally speaking, this Olympics and all of that, and why there is so much repetition. But more to the point, your point, which is, why not? You're all in. You know what I mean? You went all in
since
with
you bought
billions
since
of
you
dollars,
bought the space. You're spending $1 billion on this thing.
Right? Exactly. Why not just
It's the same thing.
Divvy it up a little bit.
Well, look at it and I've always said I've of course grown up in the event business. I've been to so many events and trade shows and expos. I can't even tell you. That's the biggest thing that I can't understand, when somebody would spend $1 million on space in an expo, and it's the most boring space in the world. You have a couple tables, you've got some brochures, and you got mostly guys walking around answering questions. I'm like, you spent $1 million plus probably another $1 million on sending the equipment and all the people there, and this is the experience you're going to give them? Like, why did you spend the money if you're not going to invest in it? And I think a lot of people forget about that. It's like, just the space is one thing. That's a price, but you have to spend probably, what do they say, generally at least twice as much, maybe more, on the creative to activate that space.
Yeah, and
I don't think that's being done
here.
I don't think
it's not.
I'm not picking on Toyota, because I think they actually have the best commercial of anyone I've seen. The one of the woman with no legs who's the swimmer, who I think I love that commercial. I tear up almost every time I see it, but the first 3 times, but then you're like, oh,
Right.
it's this one again.
Right.
But
the first 18 times that
but
you
let's
saw
say
it,
they
right?
spent, I don't know, a couple $100 million at least on this sponsorship. Do you think they spent $600 million on the making of that creative?
No. And here's the thing, knowing how commercial shoots work, I guarantee you they have hours of footage of that woman swimming,
absolutely.
the guy running, they've got other athletes that they didn't use. They've got hours of footage in this kind of thing. So, yeah.
Well, you know what would have been great? This is, of course, we're telling them how to do their job. But that commercial, which is fantastic, which is, for those of you that hadn't seen it, it's a woman. I think she was born in the Ukraine. She was up for adoption, and an American family adopted her knowing that she would have to have her legs amputated, and now she's a world-class swimmer. Or she became a world-class swimmer. It's fantastic, right? Wouldn't it be awesome to have a documentary on the back end of that where you could really get into her story?
Sure.
And you could do that
or
through multiple stories. Then you're really like, oh, you're really expanding the experience. But no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Speaking of experience, are you excited about the kickoff of NFL?
Come
the
on.
National Football League.
I mean, all of our European listeners are
this
going,
will only be 2 minutes long.
It's that time of year.
Fast forward.
Yeah, it's that time of year. But yes, tonight, as we record this on Thursday, August 5th, tonight is the Hall of Fame game where the Dallas Cowboys will square off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, amongst all the celebrations and revelry of the Hall of Fame.
Canton, Ohio,
induction.
mind you, just south
in Canton,
of Cleveland,
Ohio.
Ohio.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not going to be much of a game, obviously, because none of the starters will be, playing, and it will be all the, it will be touch football pretty much for most of it. But, it's
it is
real
the
football.
kickoff of the season.
It is the kickoff of the season, and you can bet I will be there.
I don't know if you've seen what the Hall of Fame resort company has been doing with Canton, that area. If you would have gone to the Football Hall of Fame, have you ever been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
I have not, sadly.
Well, it's getting a point now where you could actually go and enjoy yourself, because 15 years ago they were doing a disservice to the NFL. Now they've really fixed it up. They've added this whole thing, and then what they're creating, which I think will be done in 2 or 3 years, it's like a Disneyland for football. They're adding an extra field and more retail area and another little stadium on sign, and you've got a hotel on the property. All these things are new. They're happening within the next couple of years, and it's wonderful to see that plan come together. Where I think Canton and the investors have really said, we're going to embrace this thing and not just have one building where you go in and you see basically golden busts of these guys' heads. That's it. But now it's really turning into something. So kudos to them. You'll have to come. I'll take you out to dinner or something. You'll be so close.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I've been meaning to go forever, and actually did have some desire to go this year because, of course, Jimmy Johnson is being inducted this year. But life gets in the way, and Delta variants and
Jimmy Johnson because of his championships that he won at Miami University. Correct. That's exactly why. 4 Super Bowls, if I'm correct, but he didn't win all of them because Switzer won 2 or 1. How many did Jimmy Johnson get?
Yes, Jimmy Johnson won 2 of them.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 of them back to back. There was 4 appearances. They went 3 and 1.
So Switzer got 1 and Jimmy Johnson the other 2. Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about those Super Bowl victories with my beloved Cleveland Browns, although we are getting very excited about going to a football game now because we didn't go all of last year. But then again, at the same time, everyone's sort of changing their restrictions. I don't really know what the football game experience is going to be. I don't know if we're going to be allowed. I don't know if it's going to be full capacity and you wear masks. I can tell you right now, masks are going to be a for sure thing, I think, going into a football.
Well, they're going to be a for sure thing for people who want to be safe, but they may not be mandated.
It'll be interesting.
Especially in your state, right? Especially in your state.
Yeah, we've sort of waffled in our state after starting out strong. So, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Did you see? It's interesting what New York did. You see what New York City did? They said, we're not going to mandate.
They're considering that here.
Well, they're not going to mandate masks because they say if you mandate masks, then less people will be vaccinated.
Right.
So they said, we're going to mandate vaccination. Forget the mask. Just go get the vaccine or you can't go to any restaurants.
That's right.
So it kind of did what France did with their events.
Yeah, California's doing it. California's considering the same thing, right? Which are these vaccine passports that will get you into restaurants and other things.
Well, like it or not, like it or not. I know there's a lot of people upset about it, but they're working because you're seeing a significant bump up in people getting vaccinated because it's going to inhibit the things that they want to do. So, so there's that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. Hey, I also see quickly before we jump into the news here. I mean, this is news, I guess, but you know, you and I, we have our disagreements about the NFTs. But it came out this week. OpenSea, the marketplace for non-fungible tokens, seems to be doing very well, exceeding its 2020 goal by quite a bit. In other words, they're doing the tweet that came out that said basically they're doing more daily now in terms of transactions than they did in all of 2020.
Isn't that crazy? Think about that.
That's a crazy amount.
And I'm sure you're just shaking your head and you just can't believe.
Well, it's not that surprising. I think 2020 was probably artificially low. I mean, you know, let's be honest. In the middle of 2020, nobody was thinking about, can I go buy a CryptoPunk? You know, I think
wish we did.
The
right?
Market for that.
If we only did.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Right. Exactly. So we'll see if that curve continues. But I think it's really interesting. I mean, it certainly speaks to your side of the argument for sure.
Well, it's interesting to see, especially with CryptoPunks, and I posted this on the Tilts Discord community. We got some reaction because I posted that Gary Vaynerchuk last week bought one of the apes, and if you look at all of what CryptoPunks are, there's only I think 24 apes of the 10,000, so they're very rare. So Gary V comes in and buys an ape for $3.75 million. So not insignificant. And as soon as he did, it just went off. And you had the next ape went very quickly after for $5.25 million. And then all the zombies, which was 88 zombies, started to go at about $1 million each. It is just crazy. So a lot of that, you know, 95 million that OpenSea in 2 days were CryptoPunks. But at the same time, if you look at, I think we talked last episode about Stoner Cats, which is Mila Kunis's, Ashton Kutcher's project. That's taking off and doing really well, where people are, I think 3.5 have already purchased a Stoner Cat, and then they get access to the show, which is that's a media play. Very interesting way to do it. And then if you look at Gary V and V Friends, he's already sold $30 million. I had the stat here, Robert. I'm going to kick myself. Okay, here it is. Gary V's NFT project, V Friends, has 10,255 different digital assets. Every one of those, if you own it, you get into Gary V's event. I don't know what the event's called. Maybe that's V Friends too. But you get into the event for the next 3 years. You get that 3-year pass, and then the sales have already generated $23 million, which is not insignificant for an event.
No, that's well, among other things. I mean, he's got to do other things for that money as well. But you know, the magic will happen. You know, I mean, I'm going to assume for the moment that $23 million against all the things that they need to do to fulfill against those activities, let's call them, the tickets basically for what they're buying, is a already high number, right? That's already
because he's gonna
want
to do like a South by Southwest type of experience,
exactly,
with 10,000 people coming in.
And so, but let's assume that that's already a good for him, highly profitable, huge number, huge revenue number that you can manage off of that. The magic will be what happens in the in-between time, right? So, in other words, as you start fulfilling these things, the value of them obviously go down, right? You have your event, the value is now theoretically gone, other than and we can debate about this, I suppose, but the other than the collectible that you actually still have the ticket that you went to the event and blah, blah, blah. So theoretically, the value drops significantly after the fulfillment of the event.
Theoretically, but if, let's just say that this event is off the hook, it's limited to 10,000 people, it becomes this South by Southwest experience, very exclusive because there's only 10,000, whatever. And then you have the ticket for the next 2 years. Well, you can sell that ticket for more than you bought.
That's my point. That's my point. So, in other words, there is a because the idea is that if the event goes badly or poorly, then or if his market value goes down in the meantime, and like nobody starts to care about those events anymore, you're holding on to it. Basically, what you're doing is you're buying season tickets to Gary Vee. You know what I mean? It's like, and you're paying all up front for that. And so what you're banking on is that market's going to continue to go up and up up and up. And so, again, good for Gary. It's one of those.
Well, maybe that's why it's funny, because as we all know, if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk, he wants to buy the New York Jets. And he's always wanted to do that, but instead of buying the New York Jets, he's flush with cash. He buys a CryptoPunk for $4 million. So it's just Which, by the way,
we got a long way to go. We got a long way to go to buy the Jets.
I understand that, but what's interesting about him buying, this is how crazy it is right now, and I know it's crazy, and I know it's got to come down at some point. It just keeps going up, up, up. It hasn't busted at any point, but he bought this for $3.75 million. He could sell it probably for $6 million a week later. That's how crazy this market is right now.
Yeah.
And oh God, I can't get into Bitcoin. But anyways, today's the day that Ethereum had a hard fork. And what that means is they changed a lot of the rules on the blockchain. And theoretically, because there's a deflationary aspect to Ethereum now that didn't happen before, that's become more valuable. So Ethereum popped today, and the value of NFTs are based in Ethereum. So all these go up in value. It's just kind of crazy right now. So not really part of this show called This Old Marketing, but interesting nonetheless.
All right. Well, shall we get to the marketing part of This Old Marketing?
I could talk about the NFT stuff all day.
I know. Well, we need to do this.
We could do the special show. Two people.
Promising to do it.
We could absolutely do that. Two people that really know nothing about NFTs talk about NFTs.
We're starting to know a little bit. I need to go check my Mona Lisa to make sure that my Mona Lisa is going up in value.
Well, I'll tell you what, it has. For sure, because when you bought it, Ethereum was like $2,000 an ETH, and now it's at $2,800. So it's definitely worth more.
All right.
Just on theory. Okay, last thing I'm going to say. If you wanted to hold cryptocurrency, and one of the cryptos that you wanted to hold was Ether, you could make a case and say, I don't just want to hold it, I want that to grow as well. So you get double multiplier. If you believe that certain of these art assets, NFTs, go up, you could put it into, let's say, a CryptoPunk, and you hold the Ether in a CryptoPunk. But if the CryptoPunk rises and Ether rises, you get double your money. Yeah, which is what a lot. Which I read an article months ago that said that's what this guy's whole thing was, and of course he's probably a billionaire now. because he's done that. So, anyways, all right. What do we have in store for us?
All right, yeah. Let's move to the news here, where we can cover some stuff, and we do have a really interesting one. It is the dog days of August as we enter this, and not a ton of news here, but some really interesting news coming out this week. The first article we'll cover here from CNBC, which is always nice to see this in the mainstream news, where the headline is Athleta's latest salvo against Lululemon and Nike women's wellness platform. Here we go with content marketing. The key points here are that the Gap's Athleta announced the debut of AthletaWell, a digital platform offering workout content and safe places to discuss topics from mental health to body positivity. Nice timing on Athleta's part to do that. The service will be a benefit to the retailer's rewards program and tap Athleta's relationships with athletes like Simone Biles and Allyson Felix. AthletaWell's debut comes as the athleisure market is seeing explosive growth with consumers embracing comfort, but it is also more competitive than ever. And the article goes on to sort of talk about all of this in terms of how it's competing against Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and others. And it's all about, as Athleta said, building loyalty. So here we go, a content marketing platform for real, Joe. I mean, this is really a company using a media platform to compete.
Yeah, a smart move, almost like American Express did years ago. But what I really like about this program is that they made the decision they didn't have to create all the content themselves. And they, for the courses and the training, they have partnered with somebody who knows what they're doing. And so this looks like it looks like this is a well-built program. They beta tested it. They got consumer feedback, went back in, and they figured out that, hey, there's an opportunity to not just push out content on a regular basis, but they're trying to build a real community here where people can talk to other people, almost in and I don't know how. I can't get into it. I don't know. I'm not one of the beta testers. It's not out in.
No, it's not out publicly yet.
But it's going to. They make it sound like, spaghetti and meatballs, man. I'm like totally into it. What's really smart is, and especially, it's kind of what we were talking a little bit about with the Olympics and some of these really well-known athletes. You're taking your endorsements to the next level by integrating them into your content. I mean, this is just really smart. Instead of just saying, do my ad for me or wear my stuff, and we're going to show a picture of you. No, let's tell your story. Let's have you do some courses. Let's have you, let's do a documentary on here. Let's have you be, kind of like when Peloton has, celebrity instructors and stuff like that, where you're integrating into the core platform. It's just smart. And I'm assuming they have the data, like, you and I have been around forever, that says if more people go ahead and engage with your content and have a positive experience, they will stay longer, buy more, all those good KPIs that we're looking for. So,
oh yeah, it's going to give them so much leverage here. Everything from the certainly the data from the website, but certainly the content consumption and all of that, but also the brand affinity for those who interact. But it's also going to give them content for television. It's going to give them content for in-store. It's going to give them all kinds of interesting insight into shopping behavior. I mean, it's just it's just a wonderful expression of digital. And the thing I love so much about it is the timing here, about how they've timed this so perfectly. I'm sure this was sort of always meant to sort of coincide with the Olympics, but I have to think that the coincidence of talking about mental health, body positivity, and all of the things that they're going to be really focused on, other than sort of workout videos, also benefited from the news of late, with Simone Biles and her challenges and all of that. So it's just brilliant marketing all the way around. I think it's almost, you can almost see them like holding up their hands, going, "God, we need to get this out of beta," and like now, like it's like they're all they're probably screaming at the people to like get it public immediately so that they can take advantage of that.
We talked about this years ago when these were few and far between, these kinds of examples. But I think that this is going to be the rule, not the exception. If you have a $1 billion brand, even or less than that, you have a product grouping, you're going to have a content marketing machine behind you, whatever you're going to call it, some kind of project that helps with loyalty, that tries to build a community, that combines original licensed content, that actually tries to make a statement, have a point of view.
Yeah.
It's going to be standard practice. And I think you're starting to see that, where these things used to be one every. Remember when those case studies came by and we'd be like, oh my God, this is our first one for the quarter. Well, now you're seeing them multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're still at the beginning.
Yeah, and I can tell you, because we've done a little work in this space this year with one of the companies that I mentioned in the list there, they're all thinking about this. They're all thinking about this. They, in terms of digital and community and loyalty and building community digital properties that build in content that drives loyalty. All of them are thinking about this. Nike, Adidas, Athleta, Lululemon, now Athleta, all of these companies are thinking about how to do this. What I love about this is that when you normally see this sort of chatter about this, it's like, how do we create an app? Or how do we create a private shopping experience for the those fanatics who want to buy the latest Jay-Z signed sneaker or something like that? It's like this is building true value into the audience, not just trying to take advantage of an influencer signing a piece of clothing or a more private shopping experience. It's actually building in a platform that delivers experiential value, and I just think that, to me, that's the real goal here for any marketer that's trying to create this kind of thing, B2B, B2C, whatever.
Well, don't forget, and you talk about this seemingly almost every episode, but this is the race for first-party data.
Yeah,
right?
Of
this
course.
This is it. We're seeing it.
What it's all about.
We're seeing, the rules came down off the cookies and all the privacy stuff and everything last year, and now we're seeing what's going on. And you have a lot of marketers saying, "Well, shoot, we lost all of our third-party data.
Yep.
What are we going to do?"
Exactly right.
Well, this is what you do. You have your own data.
Yeah.
Which was always the beauty of Kraft's Food and Family, which why we love that program. Which is that still running?
It still exists. Funny enough, I actually put a note, an email out like 6 months ago because they relaunched it. They relaunched it. None of the folks that we knew are there anymore, but they relaunched it, and with a new look and feel and a whole new effort. And I put a note into both the PR company and the company and the people themselves through LinkedIn to say, hey, I'd love to learn about what your goals are and everything there, and just get to know you a little bit. And didn't hear anything back. So
do they know who you are?
Well, probably. Yeah,
hi, this is the Robert Rose.
Yeah.
Whenever you have the in front of your name, you're almost like royalty. Right. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. The guy who can't get a blue check mark in front of his Twitter wants to talk to you. That's
you should do what a lot of people do is they actually just added the graphic into their name that looks like a check mark.
They do.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
That worked. Yeah.
It's close. It's close enough.
I totally believe that. I'm totally into it.
Yeah.
So, all right. We'll be right back. Starting a business can be overwhelming, and a great way to make it simple is to go step by step. The Online Business Academy offers simple, easy to follow, and completely free courses to help you find a business idea, create a business plan, build a website, and more. The short videos, bonus activities, and resources give you everything you need to take your business up and running. Hosted by industry experts such as Ryan Folan, Jason Falls, and Kim Garst, these courses also come with interesting activities and exciting prizes. For more information, visit academy.get.online. That's academy.get.online. And now, back to the show.
All right, let's move on to our next story here, which of course comes to us courtesy of Facebook and Amazon. We're going to pair two stories together here, folks, because they are just very interesting about non-classic companies that are media companies that are thinking about new ways to distribute content. The first one comes to us courtesy of Axios. The headline is Facebook's first ever paid movie premiere. The article says, for the first time ever, a film distributor will use Facebook to debut a movie exclusively via a ticketed live event, executives tell Axios. The Outsider, a controversial documentary about the construction of the 9/11 Museum in Manhattan, will premiere publicly on Facebook for $3.99 on August 19th. Putting films on Facebook could lower the barrier, says the article, to distribute content for smaller filmmakers and studios, especially for those looking to reach audiences in smaller markets where it's harder to broker local deals. The article then goes on to talk about the details of the premiere, how you can find it, and how it's all going to work with ticket sales, etc. The second story that we'll pair with this one and then have a nice discussion about is from our friends at Amazon, and this comes courtesy of Marketing Dive. And they buried the lead in this article because the article's headline is about how Amazon's ad sales have jumped 87%. And we talked a little bit about that last week. But down at the bottom, they start talking about other content opportunities that Amazon now has. And you really forget how big Amazon really is. As the article says about 3/4 of the way through, it says, content is another area in the spotlight as consumers continue to cut the cord and move to streaming. Amazon's ad-supported streaming platforms, now that's to be different from their subscription-based streaming platform, but their ad-supported streaming platforms, that includes IMDb TV, Twitch, live sports, network, and broadcast apps, all available via Fire TV. Get this, folks, now reach 120 million monthly active viewers. So that puts them 3 times the size of Apple TV, just to put that in perspective for you. And they've been promoting that, obviously, in their New Fronts presentation, talking to advertisers, et cetera, et cetera. So both of these things, Joe, tell me that Facebook and Amazon are both serious or seemingly serious about driving ad-supported media for the long term. And by the way, doing very well at it.
Well, if you think about it, with Facebook, they have 2 billion users?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on who you're targeting. I mean, if you're targeting what my son would call me a boomer, if they're targeting me because I'm on Facebook,
right?
Yes, launching a movie on that platform is pretty smart. If you're launching the next rock movie or whatever the case is, I don't know if this is just such an easy land grab for Facebook. I don't know if they're doing anything differently. I mean, we talked about on the last episode, I think it was, or 2 before that, I have concern over Facebook, not Instagram, not WhatsApp, not Oculus, over Facebook's long-term strategy. Maybe Facebook, it just becomes, in a lot of cases, the internet for a group of people, which, by the way, it is. If you go to a lot of smaller countries and they say the internet, they just mean Facebook because that's what they're on. They get started on Facebook, and that's where they get access to everything. So, of course, are we going to have access to our movies? Sure. And then you go over to Amazon. I think you're going to see some crazy things happen. I could see things happen, like NFL stops using their whole direct TV model, and they go exclusively with Amazon type of stuff. Like, I could see that stuff starting to happen, where you really do get the majority of your... So we're moving away. How many times have we talked about moving away from NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and you're now moving to Amazon, Apple, Facebook?
Sure. I mean, the numbers would just lead you there, right? I mean, I am the first, speaking of the NFL, I'm the first one in line to sign up every single year. It is the reason... By the way, it is the only reason, really, I still maintain DirecTV because of an NFL ticket, Sunday ticket, because I can get all the games, and I'm just that much of an NFL geek. However, increasingly, there are options for me online. And interestingly as well, I almost never use the television version of the DirecTV. I almost always use, because the reason I sign up is because, I can access the games via alternative devices when I'm not home, where I don't have my dish set up, right? So my iPad, my computer, I'm in a hotel room, I'm in, another person's house, and I can watch the game there. At some point the NFL is going to go, you know what? There's access to a bigger audience here who will pay the same amount of money to us as a royalty to get that. There's no reason for us to be exclusive or semi-exclusive with DirecTV any longer. Let's just move this. And it wouldn't. I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I'll put it that way.
I think the other thing that I'm thinking about with just the advertising push that Amazon has and how amazing this is, I guess I once thought a long time ago where, if everyone has a content marketing strategy and they're all building their own audiences, that they will theoretically spend less money on advertising because they have the audience, and then they'd work on, content experiences and build their relationship with those audiences. But what I forgot to think about was it's really hard to do that. So only a small percentage of companies will actually do that, and the rest of them are going to say, well, we're not doing that. We can't do that. We don't have that audience built, so we're going to have to spend a ton of money to interrupt these people on other people's platforms.
Yeah. Well, what it comes down to, it's the metaphorical battle for, the number one screen, right? In other words, it's the battle that apps have been fighting for the last, call it 10 years, to be on your home screen. And so, you end up with all of these companies vying for the same audience, and the attention and the time to spend, and ultimately the dollars to spend. And so they all start advertising on each other's platforms to steal audience. And so, so that you become the favorite. And that's you just end up with it's great for the consumer theoretically. The challenge, of course, comes with, how many options you have. And that's where you have the sort of battle between you've got the big 4 or 5, streaming platforms that, I can't remember. We talked about this maybe, a couple of months ago, where we talked about the consolidation of the streaming services, and we were laughing at the numbers because it's gone from 7.6 to 7.4. Okay, it's still 7, right? You know what I mean? It's like, it's ridiculous, but at some point it is going to go to 5. It's going to go to 4. It's going to go to 3. And what you want is to be one of those 3. And so the question is to how many walled gardens are there that ultimately people will, before the pendulum starts to swing the other way and people want more choice. And have you seen the ads, by the way, just totally as a side note to this is another small data point. I saw an ad the other day which said, I think I may be getting the brands wrong, but the point will still be made. I think it's HBO Max now has a deal with NBC where they're offering a bundle where NBC and HBO Max together are offering, if you subscribe to HBO Max, you also get Peacock and Hulu as well.
Oh, geez.
And so now you're starting to see classic competitors cooperating to provide bundled deals to say, subscribe to all 3 of us at the same time and get a deal. So if you get ready for that too, right? So it's very interesting.
It just makes me think too, because as we've been focused on the content entrepreneur, the smaller content creator, if you can build an audience and over the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years and just hang with it, you will get bought out. Like you will get.
That's right. That's right.
It's absolutely going to be. It's going to be like wasn't it the great consolidation?
It's your own NFT. It's your own NFT. Your business is your own NFT. Think of it that way.
What isn't it? The Dark Crystal had the great consolidation. What was that? That was it was not called that.
Gosh, yeah, there you go. Wow. No.
It was called the Great something.
Now, yeah.
I'm thinking that, anyways, that's what you're going to see. Because you're right. I think it's going to get down to
the Great Conjunction is what it was called.
Gosh. I love that. I still love that movie. You're going to see the Great Conjunction happen in the media space, but happen in all these little niches and B2B areas that you never think of as well, because there is so much money out there that the big players have. They're going to say, okay, well, to stay competitive as well with the top 2-3 other ones, they're going to start buying out a bunch of stuff. It's already happened. Yeah. It's accelerating. We've said it a million times. There's so much money out there. It's just crazy. So if you can identify a niche audience, and this goes for content marketing as well, because remember, you can have your own little content marketing audience built.
Well, this is Athleta, right? This is what Athleta is trying to do.
And by the way,
exactly. Create a walled garden.
What's great about AthletaWell and what they're trying to do there, if they create a media property as part of this whole thing, it takes the value of their product and 2x, 3x it? What if you have that audience as well?
Well, that's going to be fascinating to watch, is to see how much valuation a Wall Street or something like that puts into a platform like this that may not be monetized, quite frankly, in the traditional way. In other words, they may not sell access to this. It may be monetized in a different way. But to your point, they are building IP. They are building value and asset. They are building an asset for the business that is called marketing. Gosh, somebody should write a book on this. And they're creating that asset. How much does Wall Street value that into the stock price? And that, I mean, that's a whole other area of exploration of finance that's just going to be very interesting to follow.
Well, think about, so you and I are presenting at Build a Better Agency Summit next week in Chicago.
Yeah.
And you and I, we're sort of talking about linked things, but the thing that I'm talking about is basically building your agency to then sell it. And the research that I did on it, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, if you have an agency and you have a services business and you're the best services business in the world, how much could you sell for? And basically, generally you sell for 1 or 2 times income over like a 3-year period average.
Yeah. If you're lucky, yeah.
And if you're the best of the best of the best in a niche industry, maybe you'll get 3x, right? Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
So that's when I was like, I'm talking to agencies here, and I'm saying, well, or if you built a content engine behind this thing, like you and I are just talking about, I could say, okay, well, your services business, best case scenario, 3x. Well, you could create an affiliate marketing revenue line that maybe will get you 5x. Subscriptions might get you 10x. Advertising sponsorship might get you 6x. Conferences and events might get you 10x. Premium content 8x, on and on and on, right? So I'm like, right. The same thing, what you're just talking about. If you create, you're just, whatever you get, 2x, 3x, 5x, whatever's your industry rate, you could add this thing on. Oh my gosh, they're doing work in my backyard. Right. Every time, Robert. Nice. Every time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll say this. I'll say this, which is I think I'm going to use the example in my presentation, just exactly to your point of, look at Gary Vee, right? Look at VaynerMedia, which is now VaynerX, and all of the lines of business that he's been able to create. What's Vayner's company worth, right? Much more than just an agency, much more than just a social media agency, which is how it started. And of course now, you evaluate on a number of things. So
yeah, crazy. So anyway, sorry about the interruption, but the high powered blower right against my window here.
Well, speaking of high-powered blow and hot air, so the last story we'll cover here in the main part of the news anyway, before we get to rants and raves, comes to us courtesy of What's New in Publishing. And interestingly, a headline that feels like we say every single year, but I guess this year it might really be true, is digital media adoption overtakes traditional media for the first time. The study that actually comes from U.S. media audience demographics produced by Marketing Charts and then covered here in What's New in Publishing says the 54-page study compiled using proprietary data sourced from MRI, Simmons, and ComScore details the audience breakdown of several major major online and offline media types, essentially posing the question, who's listening to, reading, or watching what? Even better news for digital publishers, the highest annual growth, 11.8%, was recorded for digital newspapers and periodicals, from 49.4% to 61.2% in just 1 year. The article goes on to talk about a few other takeaways about how all digital media types have experienced some degree of uptick. Readership of digital newspapers and periodicals has registered the largest jump of all media. Streaming video is now the medium with the broadest adoption rate of all, overtaking traditional TV in a new milestone. And when looking at audience reach by demographic, the 25 to 34 bracket tends to have the highest among high rates of digital media use, but adoption is also high among other age brackets. You can get the full report. It's got a link there to wherever this research comes from, which is at marketingcharts.com. But I found this interesting for a number of reasons. One, because it feels like we say this every single year and whatever. The other is still how high, I guess I'm still surprised to get your take on this, Joe, about the corollary, right? And it's like if you say, okay, well, 60% are reading, digital newspapers, that means 40% are still not, right? that are still reading traditional newspapers, which, yeah, I know 60% is more than 40%, but 40% is still a lot.
40% is still a lot, and the fact that everyone has left that area for dead, especially from an investment standpoint, and what an opportunity. We had our 15th annual Golf for Autism for Orange Effect Foundation on Monday, so it was a great success, and there were quite a few publishers there, media companies there, because they support our event every year, and I was talking to one who was saying the amazing opportunity in print right now because all their competition has left. They are the game in town.
Right. Yeah.
They get all the print money. And I'm thinking, oh my God, when everyone else is going, and I'd love to see some correlation or some of the numbers with between downloaded streaming services and how much money spent there and used radio and all this stuff down with the marketing chart that I'm looking at, and then go down to magazines and newspapers and how that's probably plummeted and doesn't make sense with the percentage of usage. So that's for any marketers out there, any entrepreneurs looking at an opportunity. You could say, oh, well, there's still a ton of money in that area, but there's nowhere to spend it anymore because they all died.
Right.
All those publications are dead now. So what do you do? Well, this is where that opportunity is. Or you can go and say, okay, well, 80% of the world are watching streaming video. Let's go and fight after that, which, of course, you can. It's a growing area. Everybody's doing it, right? But it is incredibly difficult to break through all that clutter. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and the other thing that I saw is the opportunity there. I mean, we just got through talking about how it could be a little overwhelming, especially for those of us that are inside baseball and sort of are, digital early adopters and, sort of have cut the cord and all of that. What we need to realize, of course, is, as you remind me every so often, what my marketing professor told me, which is you are not your target market. The opportunity is still there to pull that audience, right? So that 40% represents a total addressable market that you can bring over to be their first digital major subscription and move from print to whatever, or the other way around. Right, which is keep them in that offline by launching something truly interesting, so that they don't migrate over to digital newspapers or periodicals. And so there's a lot of opportunity there with an addressable market that is still of need. And so it's not that it's not all for lost. It's not all Facebook, Netflix, Amazon that you have to sort of now fight. They have a huge share of it, but they don't have all of it yet. And so there's still a lot of opportunity there for smaller people and businesses to actually develop meaningful audiences, et cetera, and keep the marketplace open, as it were, so that one or two vendors don't dominate the entire bazaar.
Well, you remember when we launched Content Marketing Institute, and we were trying, we had the blog and we were doing okay, and we were launching Content Marketing World, and that was big buzz about that. But I think one of the things that really surprised and delighted people and maybe made more impact than anything else was when we launched Chief Content Officer Magazine. out to 30,000 people. And it was like nobody was launching a magazine at that time. Absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
And we came out and said, boom, and we put our stake in the ground and everyone noticed. And when I went to a chief marketing officer, it was some CMO roundtable summit. It was out in Colorado. And I was talking to one of the CMOs and he had a magazine on him. And I'm like, how hard would it be to reach that CMO any other way? He got a hold of it. He had a hold of the magazine.
Right.
Because that was his behavior, right? He would probably go on a plane. He'd get all of his reading material together, the pile of best intentions, and he'd take it on the road with him. I'm like, wow. So sometimes we forget. The easiest way to break through is not the most obvious.
Here. That is absolutely the case. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your favorite part of the show, which is our rants and raves section, our empirically proven favorite part of the show, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like we're sharing the gold medal of the high jump together, or that we have to go do a jump off, talk about NFTs or something. So I probably should go first. I think we both are going to talk a little bit about the Olympics.
Here. Yeah.
The Olympic special here in terms of our rants and raves, and I think we both have a bit of a rant on this. But yours feeds nicely into mine, so I'm going to start. I just have to. So the story I'm going to link to in the show notes sums up my sentiment perfectly. I was thinking I was the only one of this, because I've been seeing a lot in social media, like how amazing it is and how awesome it is, and I haven't been seeing a lot of complaints. But The Guardian posted an article, and basically the headline of the article in The Guardian says, NBC paid $7.7 billion for its Olympic rights, and we got televisual vomit. And I think that's just perfect.
God. Yeah.
It's perfect. It is perfect. It is a perfect description of what the coverage has been from NBC. And by the way, another article that we can also link to if we need to is just came out that said the ratings are about half of what they were in the previous Olympics. And NBC has come out and said, yeah, we're just not doing very well. And I would wholeheartedly agree. The coverage has been horrific. I have botched both the prime time, and mostly I'm talking about the prime time stuff here, the prime time broadcast television coverage of the Olympics. I have also seen the Peacock stuff, the more 24/7 sort of coverage, which is better, but still pretty awful. Most of it has to do with, for some reason, I guess NBC has tried to assume that we're all like ADHD and can't keep, attention for more than about 30 seconds on any one particular thing. I was literally watching one of the rugby games, and I thought I was going insane because they started the rugby game, they break to a commercial in the middle of a play, in the middle of a try, they break to a commercial, they come back, and it's like a minute left till halftime. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I looked at the score, and the team had scored twice while we were in commercial break, which means that they were basically playing highlights that weren't really highlights. And it was just an awful experience. And so, there's so much that's bad here in terms of the way that they're hey, we're watching some amazing story of a track meet, for the 400-meter hurdles or the 100-meter dash or whatever it is, and then immediately you break to commercial, or you're going to they're trying to create some dramatic, homespun story about somebody that ultimately isn't the person that needs to be covered. It's so bad. It's the coverage is so bad in terms of what's going on here. And it's the kind of thing where, like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, where, if they had just tried, right? It's like if they had just leave it alone. Just like, there's one part of the article that the Guardian article that sort of sums it up so perfectly. It's like they ended up on one of the streaming versions of NBC's coverage, and quite frankly, it's one of that they don't care that much about. So in other words, they don't have like some like amateur play-by-play or third-rate play-by-play person there. They actually don't have any commentary at all, because they just, they can't afford to cover every event and have a play-by-play person. And they said they were watching, I think it was judo they were watching, and they were like, they stayed on it for like an hour with no commercials, no commentary, and all you did was watch. And they said it was the best. It was because you watched the drama, you watched the competition, you got involved in their story, you got involved in what's going on in the middle of and it was like you actually got to attend and really and he said that was the brilliance of that coverage. It's like just leave it alone, just find it, focus in on on prime time. Like they used to do this way back in the day. They used to do this like. Tuesday nights primetime coverage would be gymnastics. Wednesday nights primetime coverage would be, swimming. Thursday, and they would let you know. By the way, they would say, "Hey, listen. By the way, Tuesday's going to be gymnastics, so we're going to cover it all night long." Blah blah blah, and you would get to know. You'd get involved in the drama of that competition, and it's just not there anymore, and it's just awful. So I'm just ranting about it.
The weirdest thing that my wife and I have seen is when they do the gold medal ceremony for the United States, most of the time they only show the U.S. participant. You never even see the stage that there's two other people there. I don't get it.
Right.
I'm like, what? Is this so U.S. centric? We can't even show that there's been a silver and a bronze one? Like, I don't even know. Were they there?
Or the other ones who won gold medals, and we actually get to hear their countries,
It's so my son was so upset. He's like, "This is so U.S. centric. I can't stand it. This is the Olympics. It's supposed to be the world. Like, what's going on?"
Right. And by the way, the young and for the first time in the Olympics, they had skateboarding as a major event, which I was really excited about. And I tried to watch that one night, and they were like breaking away and in the middle of the conference, with commercials, and didn't cover it, and then they broke away to some other event for a bit, and then they came back to it, and it was just so disjointed. It's like you can see why they were trying to bring in the younger viewers by trying to cover it, but they didn't cover it. They didn't actually cover it because they're so afraid of losing us, the older crowd, that they didn't focus in on one, just have one night of just primetime skateboarding or primetime, whatever other sport. It's crazy to me.
So a couple things. First of all, I have a really quick rave because my son found this. He hasn't really been watching the Olympics. I found a lot of younger people haven't, but he caught this on his feed. Snoop Dogg and Kevin Hart doing commentary on Peacock is probably the best thing that they've done. And so there's a clip that I was able to catch on YouTube because Peacock did put a little thing on YouTube, which you can't get much on the Olympics because all these licensing things that are going on. But those two are hilarious, just talking about stuff that they know nothing about. It's kind of like you and I and NFTs. It's just entertaining, hopefully. And that's all they're doing. So I'll put a Mashable link in the show notes. It's just the two of them. They had to figure out what equestrian was, and they had to figure out what synchronized diving was, and you got these two guys looking at it. It's pretty funny.
That's brilliant.
So my rant back to what you're talking about, and this was before the Olympics. This was a couple weeks ago. We went to a Cleveland Indians baseball game. They will be the Cleveland Guardians pretty soon, but they're still the Cleveland Indians. And I was talking with my friend who was there, and we were talking about how there's so many fewer younger fans in baseball. And then we were trying to figure out why that was. And I said, well, I'll tell you why. I said, because when I grew up, every day on Channel 43, free television, you were able to watch an Indians game. Every game all year long. That's 162 games. And I became a fan because I would watch it free, and I got into the game, and it was fantastic. Today, it's very tough to get access to watch an Indians game. You just can't find it. You have to get cable access, and then you have to buy the add-on for that in order to see the game. And so what you've gotten from that are less fans. this is exactly what's happening with the Olympics. We are killing the generation, the younger generation today will never grow up being Olympics fans because of not only you have to be on Peacock or you have to have most likely cable to watch
or suffer
horrific coverage like you were talking about, but the fact is that, and this happened, so my son was telling me about this, and I didn't realize it was a thing, and I had to look it up, and it actually did happen. So one of the top Twitch streamers that he loves was basically just talking about what was going on in the Olympics and had sort of the stream playing in the background, wasn't showing it on screen, but you could hear it. The Olympic Committee banned him, made Amazon take him off of Twitch.
Amazing.
Because he was talking about these things that aren't licensed to Amazon and Twitch being able to do this. So the guy was banned. So he was talking about this. This is just the worst thing in the world, where you would think right now you would create some type of Olympic experience on these other platforms, Twitch and YouTube and TikTok and everything. You meant, what was the gold medalist that got kicked off?
Yeah, Elaine Thompson-Herah. She was temporarily blocked on Instagram on Tuesday when she posted to Instagram herself winning the gold medal in the 100-meter and 200-meter races. And she tweeted that she was blocked on Instagram for posting the races on the Olympics because she doesn't own the right to do that. So she posted basically herself winning, her own experience winning the two races, and she got blocked on Instagram for doing that.
So... And I'm sure this is not just NBC's fault. I'm sure it's the Olympics. There's a lot of corporate. Corporate involvement going on.
This is the problem with DMCA takedowns that are just big sigh here. Where we've talked about this a little bit before, which is we understand that Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they all have big jobs in terms of making sure that the content on their platforms is okay, is copyright infringement free, all of that is a big job. But the problem with not investing in the human factor here and relying solely on bots and algorithms to do that is that this happens. And exactly to your point, it gets to the point where it's so prevalent that you just can't enjoy it any longer. You can't, you remove, this is more the Olympic Committee, I think, more than anything. This is not the platforms themselves. The platforms are trying to do what they're being asked. Yeah, they're being asked to do, right? Which is take this.
I know that there's a lot of money, obviously $7.7 billion on the line and all that. But if you could have figured out something in your monetary strategy where you could have opened it up to everyone, and just saying, we are going to celebrate the Olympics and share, do whatever. You have complete carte blanche to do whatever you want to do. This would be the highest rated Olympics ever. And we should learn this as marketers and entrepreneurs dealing with content creation, that when you give it openly, amazing things happen. And if you block access, if you create lead gen forums, if you do those, you are going to kill yourself. You're not going to get anything. So I feel bad.
It's winning the battle and losing the war.
This is fixable.
Yeah.
So I hope in 3 years, whenever the next Summer Olympics is, that they figure this thing out, because they're going to again have their audience, and you're going to get people like my kids' age who don't know anything about the Olympics because it's not available on any of the things that they engage in.
Right. Who have no desire, by the way. This is solving a problem that doesn't exist, which is none of these kids, none of us have any desire to open up a Twitch stream and stream the Olympics 24/7. Nobody wants to do that. There's no reason to do that. There's no benefit to doing that. What you want is the fun, playful, creator level abilities to do stuff like the Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg thing, like, having gold medalists be able to post their own stuff, having the ability to post up excitement clips, on TikTok to say, hey, this is really cool, you should check it out, parody videos, all those kinds of things, which the only thing that does is make people more excited to go watch the actual source content.
Actually, I bet you more people would be watching the primetime drivel that's there if all that other stuff happened. And so they would be making more money by letting it go, by not being so strict about those policies.
Yep. We talked about this with golf not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
The PGA. Remember we talked about this with the PGA, how the PGA was trying to put the hammer down on this kind of stuff. And it's like, don't be stupid.
It's whatever. I feel bad. I feel bad because my children and their friends aren't interested in the Olympics, and I think they're very important to the world. I think there's a lot of lessons and stories to be shared, and they're not seeing that. So there you go.
Yep, absolutely. What do you got this week? We're going to see each other.
I'm leaving soon. We're
days
got a
away.
little family trip that we're planning and heading our way to Chicago, so that you and I can perform on stage, God willing, fingers crossed.
Good Lord.
Thank goodness we're vaccinated and we have to show proof of that to get into the facility and give our speeches, but it'll be good seeing you and it'll be good speaking in front of real people again. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Getting ready for that thing.
That's it. You just nailed my prep too. I'm just in the final preparations of my presentation and getting ready. I have to relearn how to pack.
Tell me about it.
Because I don't know how to do that, and get everything together and sort out car rides and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm going to be doing. So I will, I'll see you on Tuesday, and we'll have lots to talk about on our next episode.
We almost could do it in person, but we're not going to because that's not how we roll. Even when we do it in person, we don't do it in person because we
that would be weird. That would be weird.
All those countries we were in where we were in different hotel rooms doing the podcast. So
right, exactly. You were above me in so many ways.
Yes.
Oh dear. It's gone downhill, folks.
We're done.
So that's it. We are signing off. If you want to get all the goodness of this podcast show notes or dive into any of the other 282 episodes, and that's a lot of episodes, just head on over to our wonderful little website at ThisOldMarketing.site. That's ThisOldMarketing.site. We want to thank the good folks at Radix for powering our ThisOldMarketing.site, and get your own .site if you want to get your .site. And until we meet again, just remember, folks, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.